Hello and welcome back to the part 2 of your second chapter. In this particular video, we will be discussing about your audit engagement contents. Now, let's look into what are the things that the audit engagement letter actually contains. Okay, the first one is the objective of the audit of financial statement. Now, the first thing is it will contain of the objective. What is the main objective of the audit of the financial statements? Okay, second is management's responsibility for financial statements. Okay, what is the management's responsibility towards preparing the financial statements will also be mentioned in the audit engagement letter. Third is the financial reporting framework. What kind of financial reporting framework is being adopted by the management in preparing the financial statement, that is applicable financial reporting system. Okay, so this will also be mentioned, like what is the kind of reporting and how will the management prepare the financial reports. After which, the fourth point, the scope of the audit, including reference to applicable legislation, like what are the rules and regulations, what are the bodies, that is the government bodies who are involved, and how the auditor needs to adhere to the rules and regulation. All the rules and regulations will be mentioned in the letter. Next, the form of any reports or communication or results of any engagement. Now, it will consist of all the reports of the communication also, so that there is a proof that of whatever is being communicated. Next, the fact that because of the test nature and other inherent limitations of an audit together with the inherent limitations of internal control. Now, in case if there is any misappropriate statement, or in case if there is any fraud which is discovered, etc., that also will be written down in the audit engagement letter. Then unrestricted access to whatever records, documentation and other information requested in connection with the audit. Suppose in case if you want these particular documents, but but the client has not granted the auditor the permission, then in this letter also there will be certain requests which will be made on to the client, in case if that is actually very important to carry out your auditing. Next, management responsibility for establishing and maintaining effective internal control. Now, their management will also have necessary responsibility as to how they have to manage and maintain their effective internal control. So this is with about your what the audit engagement letter actually consists and contains about. Next is agreement on the applicable financial reporting framework. Now, what is this agreement on the applicable financial reporting framework? First, it says that the terms of engagement should identify what the applicable framework is. Now, as an auditor, you need to identify how the financial reporting is and what is the kind of framework, like how they carry out their audit, how they carry out your reporting, like which department is responsible, etc. Next, after that, the auditor should accept an engagement to audit financial statements only when the auditor concludes the applicable financial reporting framework is acceptable. That is, you need to have certain rules and regulations. That is, the audit engagement report should be prepared as per rules and regulations, as well as the auditor must see if everything, all the rules and regulations are followed effectively, etc., in order to accept that particular financial reporting engagement letter. Then, a condition for acceptance of assurance engagement is that the criteria referred to the definition of an assurance engagement are suitable and available for intended users. That is, basically it says, like, before you accept the audit engagement, you need to before you accept as per that particular definition which is given, you need to make sure that the subject matter is available to the everyone. Okay, there is transparency of information. That is, criteria will possibly be a benchmark. Okay, that is suitable measures which will be taken. Then you'll have a presentation and disclosure of information. Then a suitable criteria are required for reasonable consistent evaluation. Okay, that is basically what is the basic information which you require in order to check if the report is right, in order to carry out evaluation, that is to see whether the report that is prepared is actually right. Okay, how you're going to measure the actual standard with the standard which is being performed. Okay, so you will be setting a particular benchmark means a standard which is set, like benchmark basically means a standard which you are setting to match the actual performance with the performance that has been with the actual performance with the performance that has been performed at the moment. Next is acceptance of change in engagement. As we all discussed this in the previous slide, like in case if there is, as we all discussed, suppose if there is any changes in a particular year, okay, so how the auditor has to include this in his audit engagement letter. And what because environment is something which is dynamic and it keeps changing. So before the completion of the engagement, before the completion of the contract, if there are any changes, then if the auditor is accepting, then he needs to make sure that he is mentioning all of this particular changes in the audit engagement report. First is an auditor who before the completion of the engagement is required to change the engagement to one which provides a lower level of assurance should consider the appropriateness of doing so. Okay, he should consider it appropriate to do make necessary changes. Then basically the client will be requesting the auditor to make necessary changes. Okay, basically this could be because of the various circumstances because of which which could be imposed, because of which they have to make necessary changes. Then a change in circumstance will also affect the entity's requirements, or it might tend to create a lot of misunderstanding, or it might lead to lack of data, misinterpretation, or it might lead to loss of information, etc. Now, before agreeing to the change of an audit engagement to related service, an auditor who was engaged to perform an audit in accordance with the ISA would consider, in addition to above matters, any legal or contractual implications of the change. In case if there are any changes, also the auditor must see, in case if it is according to the rules and regulations, if you're following the law, if there are any activities which are illegal or anything, he needs to make sure he is checking all of this before he is actually accepting the changes in the engagement. He should not just simply blindly accept the changes in the engagement. Now, if the auditor concludes that there is reasonable justification to the change in engagement, and if the audit work performed complies with the ISA standards, like what if the audit engagement, in case if the auditor is accepting that okay fine, I will make necessary changes because it is as per the rules and regulations, it is as per the ISA guidelines, then applicable, then the report is basically issued, okay, and it is revised, and the terms of conditions, whatever the engagement terms and conditions are, it will be changed only if the auditor is finding it reasonable according to the standards, and if he is finding all the rules and regulations are followed. So in order to avoid confusing the reader, the report will not include the reference to the original engagement. Now you will not have the original engagement letter because the person who is reading the report might get confused, because there are changes which are already been made, so the old thing will not be taken into consideration again. Next is any procedures that may have been performed in the original engagement except where the engagement is changed to an engagement to undertake agreed upon procedures and therefore preference to procedure performed. Suppose in case if the engagement is stating that we'll make necessary changes in carrying out the auditing procedure, etc., then if the auditor has accepted it, then all of this will also be not mentioned, okay. In case if it is complying with the rules and regulation, it will be considered, but it will not be shown in the report to avoid the confusion. Where the terms of condition. Now, 6th point says where the terms of engagement are changed, the auditor and the client should also agree with the new terms. Now, they should not stick on to old rules and regulations. Now, they know that they have changed the rules and regulations, so they have to agree and comply with the new rules and regulations. 7th is the auditor should not agree to change of engagement where there is no reasonable justification of doing so. Suppose if the auditor is feeling like it is not according to the rules and regulation, and suppose if the auditor feels like he should not, there is no need also to make any changes, then he should not accept the changes. If the client is simply telling the auditor to make changes, he should not do so until he has any reason, until he has any legal reason to do so. Next, if the auditor is unable to agree to the change in engagement and is not permitted to continue with the original engagement, the auditor should withdraw and consider whether there is any obligation, either contractual or otherwise. So basically, in case if the auditor feels that these particular changes are not right or anything, anything, he needs to withdraw the particular changes and he needs to stick on by the original changes only, original rules and regulations and original engagement letter only. Next, it says there is a limitation on scope prior to engagement acceptance. That is basically what are the limitations. That is basically the auditor's work might, be affected, and also the auditor might not be able to carry out the work effectively, and also it will not specify the audit procedure, etc. Then, if the then next limitation is if the management imposes any limitation on the scope of the auditor work. Okay, in case if the auditor is no, if in case if the management will not be accepting that auditor can have access to financial reports, etc. In case if there is any change in rules and regulation, or in case if the auditor is not in case if the reports are not abiding by the rules and regulations, etc. This will also tend to be a limitation. Okay, these are the two limitations in scope prior to engagement acceptance. Next is quality control procedures. Now, what is quality control procedure? Quality control is something that is which is followed by every organization which is providing, which is making a product available or a service available. Okay, that they have to provide a quality product and service. Now, the ISA deals with specific responsibility of the auditor regarding quality control procedure for auditing of financial statements. Now, in order to carry out auditing also, you have to provide quality work. Okay, you have to make sure that you are providing quality work with all the information making available, and taking into consideration all the possible activities. So, it also addresses where applicable the responsibilities of audit engagement quality control reviewer. This ISA is to be read in conjunction with relevant ethical requirements. That is how you need to follow rules and regulations, how you need to follow certain values, etc. in order to carry out these quality control procedures of auditing. So, it says system of quality control and role of engagement themes. First one is quality control system. There are various policies and procedures. Okay, there is also responsibility. This is also one of the most biggest responsibility of the audit firm. Now, why? Because you have to maintain, every organization should have a quality control system to provide assurance. Okay, to provide effectiveness in audit, and to provide assurance, that is a guarantee that the firm and its personnel comply with all the professional standards, that it is providing guarantee that whatever the organization is established, first of all, it is not carrying out any unethical activities, plus it is also complying with all the rules and regulations which are laid down, all the professional rules and regulations which are laid down, and it is working in benefit of the country, and there is benefit of the society at large. Next is reports issued by firm or engagement partners are appropriate in circumstances. Next, you need to assure, saying that whatever reports you have prepared are all appropriate. Okay, there is no misstatement, there is no any fraud which is carried out or anything. You need to give a guarantee saying whatever reports are prepared, it is all the right report, and you should also give evidence to it. Okay, then next it says the ISA is premised on the basis of the following things. Now, all of this is just a read through. If you want to just read through the following things, you may do so, because it is just a continuation of the same, but for system quality you need to know a few points. Now, within the context of the firm system, the quality control engagement teams have a responsibility. Now, they have a responsibility like how they have to carry out their functioning, how they have to maintain their records, okay, how they have to, make sure that right information is provided to the parties, etc. So the next topic is the objectives of quality control procedures. Okay, now what is the objective of quality control procedure? Now, looking into the objectives of quality control procedure, just a minute, girls. Okay, let's look into what are the objectives of the quality control procedures. Okay, the objective of the auditor basically to carry out the quality control procedure is that he should provide the audit. First one is the audit should comply with all the rules and regulations, and it is in compliance with all the professional standards. That is basically it should be applicable to all the laws and regulatory environment. So this is very easy and very simple for you to understand and know. Okay, next objective is the auditor's report should be issued in appropriate in the circumstances. Okay, so whatever the circumstance is, whatever the manner in which the report is being present, made available, it should be very much appropriate. Okay, it should make sure that the whatever report is there, it is true and authentic report as per whatever information is being provided. It should be a quality report which is being prepared and presented. Now, under this you have your basis materiality and your performance materiality. Now, this I would want you to read through and understand, wherein you have your meaning, you have your scope and your nature, saying what is the difference between the materiality and the performance materiality. Now, materiality is basically here, it refers to the state where financial information has the ability to affect the economic decision. Okay, basically you are whatever financial information you have. Suppose if you have information on your balance sheet, etc., to you have necessary information and you have to calculate profit and loss. Suppose in case if you're missing out one detail also, then you might have the chance to make mistakes and errors which might affect the economic decision, right? So that is the reason why this is what it is talking about, like in case if the financial information has the ability to affect the economic decision. Next, performance materiality is the amount of variation that exists in individual financial accounts, like because of due to individual financial accounts, it can be because of errors, omissions. Okay, it can also affect the auditor's opinion regarding the objective of financial statements, because here this is only the material which is available. Here the auditor is performing, taking into consideration the material. This is the performance that he is given. Okay, he is giving his opinion regarding whatever material is being made available. What is the scope? Under materiality, the scope is the level of materiality is based on the needs and expectation of users of financial information. Okay, here it is the level of performance based on whatever material is given to the auditor. He is performing, he is carrying out the auditing, he is assessing that particular information and he is carrying out the audit. Okay, whether it is based on the information provided. Nature is materiality is a stand-alone concept, but performance materiality depends on the level of the materiality. If this material is good enough, then the auditor's performance will be excellent. Okay, in case if he is given the right information, in case if there is no changes in the information to be made, etc., then the scope of auditing enhances and the nature also enhances, the performance levels goes up. So this is the difference and the thing you need to know about what is material and what is performance material. Now let's look into why quality control procedure is very important. Now the reason why quality control procedure is important is because it has to ensure that it is complying with all the ethical and professional standards. Okay, it is complying with all the rules and regulations, and it is complying with all the professional standards. Then next is to show that it is abiding by all the policies and programs, and it is also achieving the objective, as well as it is serving the purpose of all the segment. Okay, and it is adhering with the firm's practices. Next, any system of quality control and inherent limitation that can reduce its effectiveness variance is an individual's performance and understanding of professional requirements. Okay, you need to the quality control procedure is also important because you need to understand what can be the limitations, what can be the disadvantages because of which the quality control procedure procedure's effectiveness can reduce. First one is because of the professional requirements. In case if there are too many professional requirements, in case if there are too many rules and regulations, then it might become a limitation or a disadvantage. Next, the firm's quality control practices, policies and procedures affect the degree of compliance with the firm's prescribed quality. Suppose if the firm control practices are different and the control practices of the firm of the government is different, then the effectiveness of this particular system will reduce. Then the auditing will not be very much carried out very effectively. Then the quality tends to reduce, the effectiveness of the system reduces. Okay, next point says the system of the quality should control the provide of the framework a firm with reasonable assurance that segments of the firm's engagement, like it should also provide quality with whichever segment that the firm is engaging into it, whether it is performed in accordance with the professional standards, then what kind of activities it is carrying on, then whether it is carrying out on domestic level or national level or international or foreign level. Okay, then a firm's quality control standard depends heavily on proficiency and its personnel in making assignments. The nature and extent supervision to be provided should be considered. So when you are when you are setting your quality control procedures, while you are carrying out your activities, you should also continuously check the supervision, that is supervise your activities, so that you are making sure that you're providing good quality, and through continuous supervision the errors and fraud will also be very less. Then the quality of firm's work ultimately depends on integrity, objective and intelligence. You should be integrity, there should be honesty, there should be transparency, you should work towards achieving the objective and in a very intelligent manner. Now, the moving on to the elements, we will be continuing this in your next video.